Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. Beekeeping is so much more than just putting some bees in a wooden box and hoping for the best. It's really an incredible art of observation. When you pull out a single frame of bees, you are looking at vastly more than just a rectangle of wood, some wax, and a bunch of crawling insects. It is a highly detailed, living, breathing record. It shows us the queen's most recent laying activity, the colony's future population, the nutritional resources coming right in through that front entrance, and yes, even potential warning signs of disease. The real trick, the secret to mastering this craft, is learning how to translate that one single frame of wax into the unfolding, dynamic story of the whole colony. So let's dive right in and learn exactly what it is you're seeing, and most importantly, what questions those observations should prompt you to ask. Think about a beautifully populated frame like a single page in a much, much larger book. It is absolutely not the entire story. When you pull a heavy, buzzing frame out of a hive, you really need to read the whole overall pattern rather than instantly jumping to conclusions from just a single cell or one little patch of wax. Before you even think about brushing a bee away to see what's underneath her, take a quick moment. Just look at the number, the age mix, and the general behavior of the adult bees covering the face of the comb. From there, we're going to work our way methodically inward. We look at the entire overarching pattern first, then we narrow our focus down to the brood, then the food stores, and finally the micro details. And always compare both sides of the frame and seriously consider what season you're in before making any major management decisions based on what you just found. To make this super efficient and practical for you, here is our game plan for today. We'll start with proper handling and lighting. Then, we will map out the classic frame pattern, decode the brood cycle, identify the different food stores, spot specialized queen cells and health clues, and finally, make sense of all these observations. We are taking a really structured, outside-in approach here. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, proper handling and lighting. Before we can even analyze what is deep inside those hexagonal cells, we really have to talk about how to physically manage the frame in your hands. Proper physical technique is absolutely everything when inspecting a colony. You always want to keep the frame held vertically and keep it directly over the open hive. Why? Well, if any bees happen to lose their footing, including your invaluable, highly prized queen, they will safely fall right back into the colony where they belong. You also want to avoid holding a nectar-heavy frame completely flat horizontally. Fresh nectar is incredibly watery, and gravity will cause it to quickly drip and spill all over your boots. To view the other side, don't flip it horizontally. Just rotate it vertically, kind of like turning a steering wheel, to keep it upright. Next, position your body so the bright indirect light of the sun or the sky is right over your shoulder, basically acting like a spotlight. Tilt the cell opening slightly toward that light. That specific angle is the absolute secret to illuminating the dark bottoms of the wax cells, so you can spot those tiny, nearly transparent eggs. And finally, always protect the delicate developing brood from cold, whipping wind, direct hot sun, and long exposure outside the box. Now that you are holding it correctly, let's evaluate the overall spatial layout in Section 2, the classic frame pattern. There's a classic visual map to a healthy, well-organized frame. You will typically find the brood, the developing baby bees, concentrated right in the center, where it's easiest for the worker bees to keep it perfectly warm. Right above and tightly around that brood nest, you'll usually see an arc of pollen. They place it there for pure efficiency. It acts as a super convenient pantry right next to the nursery. Then, on the outer bands and up in the corners, you'll find the nectar and capped honey stores. However, and this is a crucial point, remember that this is a helpful mental model, it is not a strict rule. The hive is a dynamic environment, so expect normal variations. During a heavy nectar flow, for instance, bees might suddenly backfill empty brood cells with nectar. Or during a dearth, when forage is really scarce out there, those food arcs might completely shrink away. And if you have a brand new package of bees just starting out, you might just see stark white comb and eggs. So always read several adjacent frames before declaring the colony short on space or food. Moving inward to the center, let's master the visual clues left by the developing nursery. Section 3, decoding the brood cycle. Understanding the caste emergence timeline is foundational knowledge for us. We have 3 distinct castes in the hive, and each has their own development schedule. A queen typically emerges around day 16, a female worker bee around day 21, and a larger male drone bee around day 24. But listen closely. These are useful approximations, not exact ticking clocks. The bees aren't wearing tiny watches. Variables like the ambient temperature, the specific genetics of your colony, and the overall nutrition available can slightly shift what you actually see when you pull that frame. But memorizing these rough timelines is a game changer. It allows you to look at a frame of capped brood and calculate roughly when a huge population boom is about to happen. Let's visually break down those early, crucial days. From days 1 to 3, you're looking for tiny, white, rice-like eggs resting all the way down on the cell floor. Usually, they stand perfectly upright when they are newly laid, and then they slowly lean over onto their sides as they age. Spotting just a single egg near the center of the cell is fantastic evidence that a laying queen was there very recently, even if you can't find her. From days 4 to 5, the egg hatches into a young larva. This looks like a small, translucent C-shape floating in a pearly pool of brood food, which we call royal jelly. From days 6 to 9, that larva feeds and grows incredibly rapidly into a large, moist, vividly white C-shape that nearly fills the entire diameter of the cell before the worker bees eventually cap it off with wax so it can pupate. So, what happens after those hungry larvae are capped over? Well, there is a key visual difference you really must quickly learn to recognize here. Worker brood is found in standard-sized hexagonal cells, and they are usually densely packed right in the center of the nest. Their wax cappings are flat or just very gently domed, and usually a light tan or biscuit color. Drone brood, on the other hand, houses the much larger male bees. Because the drones are so big, these cells are noticeably wider, and their cappings push outward with a pronounced bullet-shaped dome. It's very distinct. You'll often find drone brood clustered near the lower edges, the corners of the frame, or completely filling up slightly warped comb or dedicated drone comb. Here is a great rule of thumb in beekeeping: pattern, not perfection. It is incredibly common for enthusiastic beginners to completely panic if they see an empty cell sitting right in the middle of the brood nest. Look, while a solid edge-to-edge brood pattern is incredibly valuable and points to a highly productive queen, a shotgun or patchy brood pattern is simply a symptom to investigate. It's not an immediate disaster. The colony is constantly shifting. A worker bee might have literally just chewed its way out 5 minutes ago, or maybe the hygienic bees detected and removed a diseased pupa, or they might simply be storing a crucial bit of pollen in that spot. If you see gaps, just check the queen's age, consider the weather, and check your Varroa mite numbers before jumping to conclusions. We are looking for the overall structural pattern, not absolute cellular perfection.
Moving outward from the brood nest, let's look at the pantry. Section 4, Identifying Food Stores.
There are some really stark visual differences in the pantry that you will easily learn to spot. Pollen, often called bee bread, looks like matte, granular layers packed tightly into the cells, and it comes in a gorgeous array of colors depending on the local blooms. You'll see beautiful shades of yellow, brilliant orange, deep red, or even gray and green. Fresh nectar just brought in from the field is a clear, highly watery liquid that will literally glisten in the sunlight. As the bees add their enzymes and fan it to evaporate the moisture, it becomes ripening nectar, which looks much thicker and takes up way less volume in the open cells. Finally, when it's fully ripe, they seal it away for winter with pale wax cappings to create capped honey. While you're checking these stores, you might also notice sticky, resinous propolis used as bee glue to seal drafts, or maybe extra, wild bits of wax bridging the gaps between frames, which we call burr comb and brace comb. Oh, and if you see completely empty, highly polished, sparkling clean cells right near the brood nest, those aren't necessarily unused. The diligent workers have likely just prepped and sanitized them so the queen can lay her next batch of eggs. Eventually, you'll spot some special structures. Section 5, Queen Cells and Health Clues. It is vital to distinguish between different specialized cell types on the comb. A queen cup is just a small, downward-facing wax cup, often likened to an acorn cup. Finding empty cups is totally routine. The bees build them constantly, basically just in case they need them. However, a charged cell means there is an egg or larva actively inside that downward-facing cup, aggressively floating in a deep pool of royal jelly. This means serious reproductive action is happening. That cell will eventually elongate into a peanut shell texture and get fully capped. Later in the season, you might find emerged cells with a perfectly hinged wax cap swinging open like a tiny door, meaning a new queen successfully hatched, or maybe torn down cells violently dismantled by the workers or a rival queen. But here is the most crucial takeaway. Please do not use the location of the cell alone to diagnose the colony's intent. It's commonly taught that cells exclusively on the bottom edge mean swarming, and cells strictly on the face mean an emergency superseizure, but location is simply not a reliable diagnosis by itself. You absolutely must factor in the total colony population, the time of season, and the confirmed presence or absence of the current queen. While you're looking closely at this architecture, you also need to actively scan for specific health clues. Keep a sharp eye out for visible reddish-brown Varroa mites clinging to the backs of adult bees or freshly emerged bees with shriveled, deformed wings. Watch intently for suspicious capped brood that looks sunken, greasy, strangely discolored, twisted, or widely perforated, which could indicate serious concerns like European or American foul brood requiring immediate expert help. Look in the bottom corners of the cells for hard, white, or black mummified larvae known as chalk brood, which is a fungal issue. Also notice if small hive beetles scurry quickly away from the light when you pull the frame, or if there's tough silk webbing tearing through the comb from wax moths, which almost always target weak, underpopulated colonies. Now, seeing these anomalies doesn't mean you immediately panic and dump harsh chemicals into the hive. It means it's time to take structured, quantitative measurements, like an alcohol wash for mites, carefully consult your historical records, or call in an experienced apiary inspector to confirm exactly what you are seeing. So, how do we put it all together? Let's move to Section 6, Making Sense of Observations. The true secret to good beekeeping is learning to calmly turn your visual clues into open questions rather than automatic knee-jerk conclusions. For example, let's say your observation is that you see capped brood but absolutely no fresh eggs. Do not instantly declare the hive is queenless and rush out to buy an expensive replacement queen. Instead, ask the next logical question. What is the exact age of the youngest brood I do see? Are there 5-day-old larvae? Because that means she was definitely here just a few days ago. Could the queen have just temporarily paused laying due to a sudden dearth in nectar? Is it late in the fall season when they naturally ramp down anyway? By comparing adjacent frames and checking the colony's overarching history, you prevent yourself from making a rash, potentially harmful management decision based on a momentary snapshot of one single frame. To help reliably answer those complex questions over the season, you really need good records. A highly practical tip for the modern beekeeper is to just take photos of your frames. When you do, take them perfectly square on so you can properly assess the brood pattern and food coverage later on from the comfort of your living room. Keep the original, unedited, high-resolution files. Absolutely do not use social media filters that aggressively change the color of the wax or artificially alter the texture of the cappings, because that completely ruins the diagnostic value of the image. And remember, while photos are incredible tools, they cannot capture the acidic odor of a stressed hive, the aggressive pitch of the buzzing, or the three-dimensional context of the full box. Always combine your photos with written notes detailing adult coverage, unusual smells, and precise pest numbers. To wrap it all up, always read the whole frame first. Methodically identify the brood, the food stores, the adult bee behavior, the wild burr comb, and any hidden health clues. But firmly remember, you are only reading one single page of a much larger book. Compare both sides by rotating the frame correctly, look at the nearby adjacent frames to get the full context, and critically consult your recent mite data before ever making a definitive move. As you look closely at all these incredible structures, the capped honey, the carefully tended nurseries, the precisely engineered wax, ask yourself, who exactly is coordinating all of this intricate architecture in the utter darkness of the hive? Well, now that you know how to effectively read the comb, it is time to meet the master builders themselves. In our next explainer, we will do exactly that, which brings us to Meet the Colony, Queen, Workers, and Drones. See you there.